Rugby World Rankings, folks, for the 5th of September 2022. Another round of the Rugby Championship sees results flipped on their head, and we've seen a few teams moving about. We'll go through them. You guys can let me know your thoughts on how fair or not they may be. Plus, we'll look at the possible permutations from the next round. And, if you guys want rugby jerseys, check out Level Rugby down in the description. They are a store which sells loads of rugby jerseys. I bought heaps from them, so check them out. They're an affiliate of the channel. Ireland and France. I'm a broken record here, but those guys are 1 and 2. Still not like to be caught anytime soon. Not playing any games. These guys aren't losing points. South Africa is the closest team to catching them, but still a wee way behind. South Africa's on 87.89. They haven't gone up any positions, but they have gained points with their win over the Wallabies in Australia, so they are gaining up from 86.47. So kind of bouncing back from that loss the week before. And the All Blacks are actually up a position from 5th into 4th, so up from 85.78. They're on 86.41, so hunky-dory that sees the English drop. They didn't do anything wrong. They've just been slightly overtaken. The gap between England and New Zealand pretty marginal at this point, but happy days from a New Zealand perspective that the guys bounced back and we're up on the log. Now, where it gets a little bit counterintuitive is when you see, after England having gone down, is when you see Argentina, who got pumped for 50 points, have gone up from 7th into 6th. They're on 82.32. And if you're asking yourself, how does that work? Well, we'll get to that because you can see below them Scotland 81.93, also up because the Wallabies have dropped to an all-time new low of 8th spot on 81.54. Now, the Wallabies lost and the Argentinians lost. And the Argentinians got, as I said, absolutely pumped. Hold on, my paper with the notes, which I'm about to explain, is just flowing away. Give me a second. Right, so what's the deal? How come Australia dropped more than Argentina, even though the Argentinians lost by more? Well, basically, it's because Argentina was away and Australia was at home. So teams which are further away from you in the rankings, for example, if Ireland were to play Tonga, the gap between them is so huge, Ireland would take no points for a win, but they would lose more points for a loss. Now, because Australia and South Africa, the gap between them was like 3.5 points prior to this game at the weekend, but because Australia is at home, you kind of boost them. They get an additional 3 points for calculations purposes. So Australia, who were on 82.96, are calculated as 85.96, so plus 3, right? So it means the gap between the sides was only 0.5 for the calculations purposes. So South Africa took more from Australia, whereas New Zealand were on 85.78, Argentina were on 82.92, but because New Zealand were at home, they're also plus 3, so instead of 85, they were 88. So the gap went from like 2.8 to 5.8. So, New Zealand didn't take as many points off Argentina because New Zealand were at home. The gap between them was, almost 6 calculation points on the World Rankings table. So, essentially, that's why, despite the fact that they both lost, Australia lost worse for calculations purposes. So, as I said, kind of counterintuitively, Argentina go up. The rest of the board's not changed. Wales, Japan, Samoa, Fiji, Georgia, Italy, Spain, Tonga, and then off the board you've got Romania, Uruguay, USA, Portugal, Chile, etc. So all the way down. Now, we don't have any other international rugby on in the men's game until November. Remember, we've got a bunch of November internationals. You've got that final World Cup qualifying place. You've got the USA, Portugal, Hong Kong, and Kenya competing for that one. But in a week's time, we still have couple of rugby championship rounds to go. New Zealand could potentially pass South Africa if they win and South Africa lose. But New Zealand's in a pretty precarious position there next to England. They'll go back down to 5th if they lose. Australia, if it's bad in 8th, could go down to 9th if they lose to New Zealand and Melbourne. Wales would be up back onto this side of my whiteboard. And Australia could go back up to 7th if they win. Argentina could go down to 8th or 7th if they lose, depending on the margin. Remember, 16 points is the difference maker between kind of a big loss and a little loss for calculations purpose. In South Africa, even if they win big, they can't quite catch France. They will need to maybe win both games. I'll have to kind of sit and see how it's looking after the first one, but they won't catch France just yet. Even if they get a big win over in Argentina, they'll certainly get a lot closer, but not quite there. So yeah, there you go, folks. As I said, it's a bit counterintuitive. I kind of hope that makes sense, that the home side gets a +3 to their calculation. So the Wallabies, their loss for calculations purposes was worse than the Pumas one, because the margin is only worth a little bit difference, whereas the home and away thing is kind of quite important. So Women's World Cup also next month, folks. That's not far away, so happy times. There's plenty of rugby on. URC and Premiership getting underway. The top 14's already underway. Laptop battery just died, despite the fact that it's charged. I really need to replace that thing. What was I saying? There's lots of rugby on. Women's World Cup, Premiership, top 14's already underway. URC. So yes, happy time to be a rugby fan, folks. Let us know what you reckon about the world rankings, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.